Journal Entry 1. I was examining a new map that I had acquired from one of the cartographers in the nearby town. I lost track of time, and when I looked at the clock I realised that if I didn't get going I was going to be late. This was the furthest I had to travel with a package, and I was looking forward to seeing more of the world beyond what I read and saw in all of my books, journals and maps. I travelled for multiple days and nights until I finally reached the house that I had to deliver the package to. The house that I was delivering the package to was very isolated. In any direction I looked, I couldn't see any other houses. There wasn't even any paths to be seen. While I was making my way back home, I got caught in a huge blizzard and my campsite was destroyed, so I began looking for shelter elsewhere. I continued to walk in the direction that I believed was the way home, until I stopped and looked around and realised that I didn't recognise any of my surroundings. I had to think for a minute and assess the situation. I lost all of my navigation equipment and supplies in the snowstorm. The only items I managed to save were my camera, journal and a little bit of food. The little bit of food that I did manage to save was now gone, and I still had no idea where I was. So I thought the best thing for me to do now was to set up a small campsite here, and hopefully someone from the company will come looking for me. The first job I needed to do in order to build a campsite was to get some basic tools to replace the ones that I lost in the snowstorm. I went over to a nearby flower forest and chopped down a tree. Now that I had a wooden pickaxe, I can get some stone from a nearby cave. I just had to be careful to not fall down, which I wasn't very successful at, but I was successful at finding some iron that I could get once I had a stone pickaxe. There was also some coal down at the bottom of the cave. What I wanted to do then was chop down a tree and build a small pen so that I had a place to keep the sheep that I needed to get the wool from. If I was going to stay here and wait for someone from the company to find me, I thought that I'd better start a farm so that I had an easy source of food. Luckily I had a river right next to my future campsite, so I started a wheat farm on the bank of the river. I got some fish from the river so that I could eat, and then used the shears that I crafted and a composter so that I was able to get the bone meal that I needed to grow the wheat. Using the wheat that I grew, I guided some sheep that were nearby into the pen that I built earlier. I then went and collected some more oak logs so that I could build the campsite, and I also got the leaves so that I could get more bone meal to help me grow more wheat. I wanted to get more iron, so I found a cave that was nearby and met my first zombie. I read about their existence in various books and journals, but I have only ever seen them at a distance in person and never this close before. I walked into the cave and got the iron that I was searching for. I got both the sand and the gravel that I would need to craft the red concrete powder. I routinely sheared my sheep and collected the red wool that I needed to build my campsite. I continued to use leaves to get bone meal so that I could speed up the process of getting the wheat that I needed. I also expanded the wheat farm. I gathered dirt so that I could turn it into mud, and using the wheat from my farm I was able to create packed mud. In tandem with the materials I have already mentioned, I also collected the additional materials that I needed to build the campsite. I picked a nice spot next to the river and began building the campsite. I decided to take a moment and evaluate what I should do next, now that I had a campsite that I could use as a shelter. A part of me wanted to wait at the campsite in case someone from the company found it and I would be rescued, but another part of me wished to explore the cave that I found earlier. If I explored the cave, it would allow me to get more iron, which would mean I could craft armour and better tools. Since it had already been multiple days at this point and there had been no sign of anybody looking for me, I decided to explore the cave. The cave led deeper underground, and at first I was apprehensive, but I continued to descend. To my left I saw an abandoned mine shaft. I mined the iron that I would need if I wanted to make the iron armour and tools, and walked in the opposite direction of the abandoned mine shaft, travelling further into that section of the cave where I found more iron. I then returned back and left the iron ore to smelt as I explored the abandoned mine shaft. I didn't spend a long time looking around since I was still too under-equipped and I was unsure about what dangers could present themselves to me. Although my exploration of the abandoned mineshaft was brief, I felt myself starting to enjoy this sense of adventure. I got the iron from the furnaces and crafted myself the armour and tools that I wanted. I took a brief pause and admired the look of my new armour and tools. I could have gone back up to the surface and waited for someone to eventually find me. After all, I would have been safe with both the protection of my campsite and the armour. However, I decided that it would be the best idea to explore more of the cave in the opposite direction of the abandoned mine shaft. The reason for me thinking this was because now that I had an iron pickaxe, I could go looking for diamonds. This would mean I could get even better armor and tools just in case I needed to stay here for longer. While exploring the cave, I got a bow and a few arrows from some skeletons. This was useful when I got to a point in the cave with a slight drop and skeletons and a creeper at the bottom of the drop. I planned that once I got enough diamonds to make a diamond pickaxe and an enchantment table, I would return to the surface to check if anyone was searching for me. I continued to make my way through the cave and eventually I found a vein of diamond ore. I got 4 diamonds, but if I wanted to craft a diamond pickaxe and an enchantment table, I would need to find 1 extra diamond. While I was looking for the last diamond that I needed, I also found gold ore and even more iron ore. I continued to travel into the cave and I found a large cavern. I ran around the cave making sure to light up the area. I was unable to find any diamonds in the cave, however I did find other types of ores, which I still mined in case I needed them later for some reason. I began getting chased by a couple of zombies. Luckily I was able to run away from them while I placed down the torches, and when I had lit up the area I attacked the zombies. I discovered a passage that connects the large cavern that I was in to a new part of the cave. In this new section of the cave I spotted a lush cave. It was the first time I got the chance to see one this far underground, as I rarely get the time to explore any cave systems while I was out on a delivery. I thought against going over and exploring the lush cave straight away because I was running low on food. However, I did collect some gold ore that was close to the entrance. I went back up through the part of the cave system that was already explored so that I could get more food at my campsite, but I also wanted to check if somebody had been around looking for me. When I got to the surface, I was saddened to not see any trace of a person having been near the campsite since I left. I gathered wheat from my farm so that I could make more bread, and I also got some fish from the river next to the farm. When I got the food, I went back to the cave since I still wanted to get the last diamond that I needed to craft an enchantment table and a diamond pickaxe. While I was in the cave, I started to think about how long I could be waiting for somebody to find me. Even though I felt disappointed that I didn't see any sign of someone at my campsite, I was still hopeful that I would see someone soon, but it might take a bit longer than I first expected. It wasn't all bad. I was enjoying the chance to explore this cave system and see with my own eyes what I had previously only read in books. Eventually I found the last diamond that I needed while I was walking through a small passage that went into the floor of the large cavern. I also made sure to excavate the area around the diamond, and I found a second diamond. I returned back up to the surface, and again I had a quick look around to see if anybody stopped by the campsite. I didn't see any indication that someone was nearby, but I wasn't as disappointed this time because I expected not to find anyone. The first item that I crafted with the diamonds was the diamond pickaxe, and with the pickaxe I could get the obsidian that I needed for the enchantment table. But before I went and collected the obsidian, I wanted to build a pen for cows that I could use to get leather, for the books that I would need for the enchantment table and bookshelves. This meant I also had another place to get food. I thought that the best place to build a pen for the cows was next to the pen for the sheep. As I was looking for cows for the farm, I spotted a wandering trader. I ran over to them to ask if they had seen anyone looking for me while they were on their journey, or if they could possibly tell me where I am. I told them my name, explained where I'm from, and the company that I worked for. I also explained that I was lost and told them the story of getting caught in a snowstorm. After I was done, they took a moment to think and said that they didn't see or hear of anyone looking for someone matching my description. I also wasn't able to get any useful information on where I was now, due to the fact that they did not have a great knowledge of the area because they were only passing through while on their way to somewhere else. After talking to the wandering trader, I went back to getting the cows for the cow farm. As I was leading the cows back to the farm, I realised that the company might not have sent anyone to go looking for me. I thought about everything I did up until now, especially my experience in the abandoned mine shaft and seeing the lush cave. I reflected on the reason I became a courier. I wished to see and experience the world, but I rarely got the time to do so because of the short amount of time I had to make each delivery. It was impractical to stop and enjoy the beauty of my surroundings, and the sense of adventure and freedom that I had hoped to gain was never granted because each route was pre-planned with little to no deviation allowed, as per the company policy. However, I was saddened that I didn't hear or see any traces of someone looking for me. Now that I had a cow farm, I needed a sugarcane farm so that I could get the paper for books. As I was collecting the sugarcane, I spotted a wolf. I ran back to my campsite and got a few bones that I got from skeletons in the caves. I was able to successfully tame the wolf, and now I had a dog to join me on my adventure. I took them around while I gathered the sugarcane to keep me company. This helped to improve my mood after not seeing any trace of someone looking for me. It also helped me realise that I should enjoy this opportunity to achieve what I hoped to get from the job of a courier, and so I started to make plans to go on an adventure to a dimension called the End. But first I had to finish making an enchanting area. At the same time I was getting the sugarcane, I also found some more cows that I took back to the farm. I went back down to the cave with a bucket so that I could get lava, and using some water that I also found in the cave, I was able to create obsidian. I was only able to find a second bucket of lava in the cave, so I decided to look for lava on the surface. I was able to get the obsidian that I needed from a ruined nether portal. In the chest I got a flint and steel and a golden helmet. I didn't take any of the other items from the chest because I didn't feel like I needed them. I remember reading about these portals. The company set up a lot of these as a way to make deliveries quicker. The idea was because the distance travelled in the other dimension, known as the Nether, was only 1/8 of the distance travelled in the overworld for the same journey, it would become cheaper and quicker to send packages through there. After a lot of packages went missing because of the hazards in the Nether, the project was abandoned. I got the rest of the obsidian that I needed to craft an enchantment table, and I also wanted to get the obsidian that was required to build the Nether portal. On my way back to the campsite, I got a few pumpkins in order to prepare for my journey to the end. The reason why I wanted to get the pumpkins was because I needed to get carved pumpkins. From various journals that I read, I learned that if I wear a carved pumpkin, I would be able to look an enderman in the eyes without worrying about them becoming hostile towards me. This is useful because from my limited knowledge of the End, there are a lot of endermen there. When I got back to the campsite, I crafted an enchantment table, but I still had to get the bookshelves. I placed down the enchantment table next to the sheep farm, and then I made a temporary sugarcane farm so that I could get the paper that I needed for the bookshelves quicker. I was able to get the experience points that I needed by using the wheat from my farm for breeding the cows. I also collected the wood that I required to make the bookshelves from the forest on top of the hill next to the campsite. Once I had all of the sugarcane that I had to gather, I got rid of the temporary farm. I crafted all of the bookshelves that I needed and placed them around the enchantment table. The first time that I used the enchantment table, I got efficiency 4 and breaking 3 on my pickaxe, but I was hoping to get fortune 3. I decided to try collecting the experience points that I needed to enchant my pickaxe by mining, so I went back down to the cave. While in the cave, I gathered some raw copper that I could smelt to get the experience points. I also got experience points from mining coal, and I collected raw iron so that I could smelt it and gain more experience points. I still needed more experience points, so while I waited for all of the iron and copper to smelt, I went to my cow farm to get the experience points from there. I used a grindstone to get rid of the enchantments on my pickaxe and started going through the options that the enchantment table gave me. After using a lot of the levels I had collected, I decided to try going to the Nether to get more. I picked a spot on my campsite and built the Nether portal. I made sure to wear a piece of gold armour in case I saw some piglins, because if I met them without wearing any gold armour, they would be angry at me. I have never been to the Nether. The company stopped sending people before I joined, but from what I read, it is a dangerous place. I lit the portal with my flint and steel and went through a Nether portal for the first time. The portal in the Nether was placed on the edge of a cliff. It was a strange feeling to know that I had just achieved interdimensional travel. I carefully made my way to the edge of the cliff, and at the bottom of it, I saw what I came here to get, a material called quartz. If my knowledge on the geography of the Nether is correct, I was in a biome known as Nether Waste. I dug a tunnel through the cliffs so that I could get down to the quartz. While I was digging the tunnel, I found some quartz and got the experience from it. I made it down to the bottom of the cliff, and now I had a way of getting to the top and bottom of that cliff in a safe way. I started mining some of the quartz that I found, and I gained a lot of experience points. While I was exploring the Nether and looking for more quartz to find, I found a crimson forest. I didn't go into the forest because of the dangers that could be there, such as hoglins. Shortly after finding the crimson forest, I decided that it was a good time to leave the Nether and go back to the overworld. When I returned to my campsite, I wanted to document the progress that I have made, so I crafted a map and I put it up on my campsite. It was nice that I had something to look at and use to remember this adventure if I ever got found. I still had to get more experience points so that I could enchant my pickaxe, so I went back to the cave nearby to my campsite and did a bit more mining. I fed the cows and sheep at the farm using the wheat that I grew from the wheat farm. I explored new caves so that I could get more materials to mine, and I also went back to the Nether to get even more quartz. Eventually I decided that the method I preferred the most was expanding my wheat farm and feeding the cows and the sheep. While I was expanding the wheat farm, I also expanded the pen for the cows. Whenever I got 30 levels, I went over to the enchantment table, and I would hope that I got fortune 3. After a few attempts, I finally got the 14 tree enchantment that I wanted. I also got the enchantments Efficiency 4 and Unbreaking 3. I then went down into the cave next to my campsite so that I could get the diamonds that I needed to craft diamond armour and tools. From the first block of diamond ore that I found, I only got 1 diamond, so I wasn't off to the best start. But from the next vein of diamond ore, I got 4 diamonds from 2 blocks of diamond ore. I continued getting diamonds, and I was also able to get more iron, gold, redstone and other materials. I collected 22 diamonds from 10 blocks of diamond ore because of the 14 tree enchantment. As I was looking for diamonds, I found a spider spawner. This was interesting to find, and I decided to investigate what was inside. I placed down the torch and fought the spiders that were inside. In one of the chests, I got a multi-shot enchanted book, gunpowder, redstone, string, pumpkin seeds and beetroot seeds. In the second chest, I got more string, bones, more redstone, and the music disc called 13. I went back up to the surface so that I could empty my inventory, and then I returned to the cave to get more diamonds. I ended up getting 49 diamonds before I headed back up to the surface. When I got back to the campsite, I crafted a full set of diamond armour, and I had a remainder of 25 diamonds. I walked over to the enchantment table and enchanted my diamond leggings with Protection 4 and Unbreaking 3. I made a diamond axe, and then I enchanted my chestplate with Protection 4 and Unbreaking 3. When I had to get back up to level 30, I would feed the cows, so I added an extension to the cow farm. While I was trying to get some calves that got out of the farm back into the farm, I was attacked by a pillager. I ran back to my campsite and fought the pillager. I got an ominous banner and an ominous bottle. I then finished getting the calves back into the farm. I got my final 2 pieces of diamond armour enchanted. I got my helmet enchanted with Protection 3, Restoration 3 and Unbreaking 3, and I got the enchantments Protection 4, Depth Strider 3 and Unbreaking 3 on my boots. I crafted a bow that I planned to use to get the blaze rods that I needed for going to the end, and I got the bow enchanted with Power 4, Unbreaking 3 and Infinity. I also enchanted my diamond axe with Efficiency 4. Now that I had a full set of enchanted diamond armour, I was ready to go to the nether so that I could find the nether fortress. Before I left to go to the nether, I repaired my pickaxe with a couple of diamonds, and once that was done, I went through the portal. I started running through the nether looking for a fortress, but first I took a moment to look across the lava lake, now that I was safe because of my armour, and reflected on my adventure so far, and what might be waiting for me in the end. I carefully made my way through the nether, and while I was on my search, I found a soul sand valley. After quite a bit of a walk, I saw a nether fortress. My first impression of the structure was how massive it was. The support pillars of the bridge reached out of the lava lake, and the bridge loomed over the lava lake. I paused for a moment and just looked up at it in complete awe. I then turned around and climbed up a cliff to try and find the way into the fortress. When I was looking for a way into the fortress, I found a hole in the ground that had a blaze spawner inside of it. I made a roof over the opening in the ground so that the blazes couldn't get out of the hole. Now I knew that the fortress was under my feet, so I dug into the ground to get inside. I had to be careful because there were some blazes in the hallways, so I used my bow and diligently made sure the hallway was safe for me to come down from the roof. When I got into the fortress, I built 2 walls in the hallway, one that separated me from the blaze spawner, and one that separated me from the remaining part of the fortress. I collected 3 blaze rods from the blazes in the hallway, and when they were gone, I turned around and started fighting the blazes at the blaze spawner. I was able to see the blaze spawner through a hole in the wall, and from behind the safety of the wall, I attacked the blazes. I used my shield to get closer to the spawner and got the blaze rods that the blazes dropped, but I did stop short of going up the steps to the blaze spawner. There were still some blazes around the spawner, so I had to approach with caution. After a bit of work, I gathered 12 blaze rods, and I left through the same hole in the ceiling that I used to enter the hallway. I made a journey back to the portal and went back to the overworld. Once I was back at the campsite, I smelted the gold ore that I had collected and gathered the gold ingots that I already had. I returned to the nether because I wanted to barter with some piglins for some ender pearls. According to the books that I read on the subject of the end, I would need 2 items to craft the Eyes of Ender: blaze powder, which is made using blaze rods, and ender pearls. The books and journals about the end are very limited in information about what happens once you go through the end portal, but they are detailed about how to find the portal. I was able to find a couple of piglins, and after some bartering, I had 10 ender pearls and I was all out of gold. I still wanted to get more ender pearls, and so I went back to the overworld and went down to the caves to search for gold ore. When I was looking for gold ore, I also found some diamonds and a lot of other materials. In the cave, I spotted a ruined nether portal that had some diamond ore next to it. I mined the diamond ore, and then I got a block of gold that was at the ruined portal. I went back up to the surface and smelted the gold ore that I collected. Now that I had more gold ore, I returned to the nether so I could barter with the piglins for the ender pearls. The final number of ender pearls that I got from bartering was 16. I used all of the gold that I took with me, so I went back to the overworld so that I could craft the eyes of Ender. Back in the overworld, I saw a wandering trader, and after asking if anyone was searching for me, and getting told that they didn't hear or see anything in response, I started telling them about what I saw in the nether. I told them all about the nether fortress and the blaze spawners. I also mentioned to them about my plans to go to the end. I got everything that I thought I would need to deal with whatever was waiting for me in the end. I made a few eyes of Ender and threw one so that I knew what direction I had to travel in. Occasionally I would throw an eye of Ender to make sure I was still going in the correct direction. The further I travelled away from the campsite, the more excited about this adventure I got. I kept thinking about what was on the other side of the portal. After a lot of walking, when I threw an eye of Ender, it went in the opposite direction that I was going, which indicates that I'm close to the stronghold that houses the end portal. Eventually, when I threw an eye of Ender, it went into the ground. This means that I was directly above the stronghold. I dug down towards where I believed the stronghold was, and I made sure to stand in the middle of 2 blocks so I didn't fall down into a cave. I dug into a cave and broke a few of the blocks around me so that I could get a better look at the cave. I made a bridge over the walls so I could safely make my way to the floor of the cave. While in the cave, I spotted the stronghold, so I walked through the cave to try and find a path up to it. I found a way to get close to the stronghold, but I had to dig a small staircase up to it. Now that I was in the stronghold, I had to find the room with the portal. I thought I saw it from across the cave, so I went and investigated if that was the portal room. I had to tunnel through a wall so I could get to the room. I was right, this was the room that I was looking for. Now that I was at the end portal, I filled in all of the portal frames with the eyes of Ender. I stood on the edge of the portal and I looked into it. One of the few bits of information that I had about the end was that there was a good chance of there being Endermen there. I thought about everything I did on this adventure up until this point. I summoned the courage and jumped through the portal. Once I got into the end, I took off my diamond helmet and put the carved pumpkin on. I then had to mine my way through what the journals called Endstone. The end looked to be a large island made up of endstone with large obsidian pillars. At the top of each of these pillars was a crystal. There was also a large dragon flying around, and the crystals appeared to be healing the dragon, so I started by trying to hit the crystals. Sometimes the dragon would land in the middle of the circle of obsidian pillars, and I would run over to the edge of the island to avoid getting hit when the dragon started flying again. It was at this moment I remembered reading a book that mentioned a dragon in the end, but I always thought the author made it up, and it wasn't true because I couldn't find any other books or journals that mentioned a dragon. Also at times if I was closer to the middle, I would wait in the centre for the dragon to take off and go back to flying around. 2 of the crystals were enclosed in a cage made out of iron bars on top of the pillars. This required me to shoot an arrow through the corner of the cage so that I could hit the crystal. Once all of the crystals were destroyed, the dragon could no longer regain health, so when the dragon perched in the centre, that is when I would attack. And sometimes I was able to hit the dragon with an arrow when she started flying again. One of the times I was in the centre, the dragon hit me, but luckily I didn't take much damage. So I went and attacked the dragon, but when I was hit a second time, this time I was launched up into the sky. I used an ender pearl to prevent the fall damage. I continued to fire my bow at the dragon whenever she was flying around. I stopped attacking the dragon when she was perched in the centre because of my experience of getting hit up into the air, and with one final shot from my bow, I managed to defeat the dragon. When I defeated the dragon, 2 new portals appeared, one in the centre and one floating in the sky that had a beam of purple light through it for a brief moment. I then ran around and collected all of the experience points that the dragon dropped, and I also collected a dragon egg so that I could bring it back to the campsite. Once I collected the dragon egg, I went through the portal in the centre and it took me back to my campsite. Now that I was back in the overworld, I was able to enjoy the feeling of adventure that I just experienced. I went and told my dog about what happened in the end. I explained how there was a dragon flying around obsidian pillars with crystals on top of them. I also told the wandering trader that I had just returned from the end and how I fought the dragon. I decided I had been here for long enough and it was time to build a house. I wanted to build a house on a hill so that it would overlook the campsite and the river. Before collecting the materials I would need for the house, I crafted a diamond shovel and enchanted it with efficiency 4 and unbreaking 3. I then collected all of the materials that I had to gather for the house. Now that I had all the materials that I needed, and I cleared out the area that I was going to build the house in, I started to build the house. On the ground floor of the house, I had an area with chests for storage. On the first floor, I had some armour stands for decoration, a few more chests, and a bed to sleep in. I also had a place for brewing potions, a crafting table, and a furnace. There is also a door that leads out to a balcony area. On the second floor is even more storage and also an enchanting area. I took my dog from the campsite and brought them over to the new house. This is the end of journal entry 1. Please see attached a photo of my campsite and a photo of my dog on the next page. Signed, Ren.